journey. The following audio may contain coarse language and other materials that may not be suitable for younger audience. The opinions expressed in this audio are solely those of the speakers involved. These conversations may contain spoilers for current media such as games, comics, movies, television shows, and more. Chronic Geeks makes no claim to ownership of the various media discussed, simply the opinions expressed. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome. What's going on, people? How y'all doing this evening? We are Grown A Geeks. This is Weigh In Wednesday. You are awesome for being here. I still got something playing, and I cannot figure out which one still has audio. I gotta cut all that background audio. I might pick it up. That would be the TV. Okay. I'm like, why do I still hear something?
Sam got the microphone from microphones they be using to listen to aliens in outer space.
Right. Like you can hear everything on this mic, and that's not good. It is not good. I need to go into group so I can see everyone who has joined us to make sure that we got, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Let me pull it up here because if I go to it through, it's so weird how this works. Like I can see everything on YouTube just fine. I can see it on Twitch just fine. But Facebook, it pulls it up in like 5 different places. And when I try to click on, like I have to join through the YouTube. I have to join through so I can actually see it right. And there's that audio again. Got to cut that. There we go. All right. Tabby, what's going on, girl? How you doing? What is going on? Roy, Justin Cigar. What's up, man? Just kicking it. So this is Weigh In Wednesday. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, if you've never seen the show, we are Grown A Geeks. We are a couple people with some geeky opinions. We're adults. We know some things. We like to discuss and talk about it. And we want you to weigh in. See how that works? Weigh In Wednesday. So we're asking you to join us. Bring your comments. Your comments will actually pop up on the screen. And no worries. You're just in time. You're just in time. You're good. You did not lose track of time. What's going on, Russell? Russell just had the book is out now, right? Jam Run is out. So go check that out. Jam Run. Our author is in the place of the continued saga that he's been writing. From what I've seen of what he shared, it looks like he's been having a pretty good release on that. So kudos to him. Props up for that, man. I'm really proud. I will be picking up my copy here soon. I've got to see the continued adventures. It's a lot of fun. Tell Tammy I said hello. Hello. Yes, we will get a link. We will get a link for the book. Russell, I'm gonna let you handle that. Put a link in the chat so that they can find the book. I know it is available on Amazon, and here is a link for the chat. If you decide you want to be a part and you want to join in on the conversation tonight, we are talking musicals. Today is the music special. We have been talking about doing this show for a while. Jeff mentions quite often Grease. It's one of his favorites. And
No favorite.
Oh no, just flat out the favorite. So
Singular, yeah.
Singular, yes. So Grease is his favorite movie, and that has caused much discussion many times. And It's always good discussion. I mean, it's and he's able to adequately defend it, and I don't disagree with it. I think Grease is a fantastic movie. Not my favorite movie, but musicals are not. But as we got to talking, I realized that I've actually seen a lot of musicals. I don't typically think like, oh, I want to go see this musical. If you say that to me,
Yeah,
I'm like, nah, I'm good. Y'all go ahead. But then I like sit down and watch a movie, and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty good. And it turns out
yeah,
it's a musical.
yeah. I think that's pretty much the case. I would say across the board when you're talking about musicals. And I think once we get into the conversation, I think we can talk about perception versus reality when it comes to like
Mm,
musicals, because the perception, like I think the perception of musicals is one thing, but the reality of musicals is another thing. And I think just like with comic books or sci-fi, fantasy, rom-coms, any kind of movie genre, there is there are different like subgenres within that. So even within
right,
musicals, there's subgenres, there's and I would say with musicals even more so, because music has its own genres. So you might think you might not like them. You might think you might not like musicals because most of the musicals you've seen or heard of or that have been pushed have been like the Sondheim or Andrew Lloyd Webber style musicals, and they have a certain style of music, and those two are probably what you wouldn't want to think of as like your quintessential musical creators. But
right.
there are also other types of musicals and people that have made millions and millions of dollars at the box office and through soundtracks and all this other stuff. So something isn't quite adding up. So I kind of just want to, maybe part of the conversation will be like connecting some of those dots, and some of the things that you might not actually consider a musical actually do fit within that category. So
We might be blending two shows. We might be doing musicals and therapy in one sitting. Therapy is on musicals. Let's put musicals on the couch and find out what's wrong. How can we
yeah,
make it all
exactly.
better? And that inside joke, of course, is just reference to a YouTube series we have. So after you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can actually go and you can check out a series we were doing, and we'll continue, called Therapy, Their IP, and we discuss. We've talked Superman, Batman, Flash. We did Justice League as a whole. I think we covered Star Wars.
Star
Um,
Wars.
we're going to get to Star Trek, but I don't think Star Trek really has any failings. Like, I don't think they have too many shortcomings outside of how do they get
Oh,
maybe, well, maybe
mm,
outside of how they get more people in the fandom. But
that's the failing.
outside of that, I think like they need more action or something like that. But that's an episode we'll do moving forward. But click that QR code over in the corner there. That'll take you to our link tree where you can find everywhere we are. And just a quick shout out for myself. Be sure to follow Elder Geek Sam on TikTok under Grown A Geeks. I'll have some more content being posted here pretty soon. I did a sweep of the room of my office here. I'm not going to move my camera because it takes too long to get it set back up. But my office, as you can see, I've got a bunch of stuff, my collectibles. I've got a ton of pop figures, my video game systems. There's even more collectibles over here. I highlighted the computer with the 3 monitor setup and everything. And that video has 2,700 views. And I'm feeling like I did a little something. I'm a little proud of that video. uh, but I want more people to see it, and I don't know. Maybe we get there with that video. Um, but before we get into musicals, because that is going to be a bulk of the show, I finally got a chance to check out a couple of episodes of Poker Face, and I like that show. I like that show.
It's a
My
really good
wife,
show.
she enjoys watching it, but she has to be in the mood to watch it. They're usually about an hour long per episode, um, and it's what's really unique about this show is I get what you're saying as far as it's very Columbo like. Um, the only thing it's missing is the literal. Just one more thing. Like if she did that, it would. But she does
Well,
something
she
very
has
similar.
she has her own thing. Yeah.
Right. She does
It's
something very
she's basically
similar.
playing like Columbo's love child.
Right. Right.
Like,
And it works so well. Um, Most times when you watch like mystery shows, whodunit shows, crime thrillers, dramas, things like that, even crime comedies like Psych, they usually something happens. You only see a part of what happens, and then you go through the episode trying to figure out how that occurred. With this show, what is unique is they show you everything that happens, and then they flash forward, and then they kind of like rewind to the events that led up to that, and you know who it is. You know who did it. You're not, that's not the mystery. The mystery is each one of these crimes is like a perfect crime. And the way it gets picked apart to be discovered is it's a very unique way of telling the story. Um, but considering the creator, I'm not really shocked.
right,
You know,
Ryan Johnson.
yeah, so for anybody who liked Glass Onion, if you like Knives Out, um, those are probably the right setups where you see what's happening. You're in the loop, but you have to find the little points here and there that are the clues, and they're right there in your face. And a lot of times you just miss them, and it's amazing. And the character, Natasha Lyonne, does a great job as a character. She's this really quirky Natasha Lyonne-esque character. She's definitely
Yes.
playing herself in this. But it's a great show,
More
and
power
I've
to
been
you.
enjoying it.
Like I say, any actor who gets to a place where you just getting hired to play what we
To be
think
you,
is you,
right?
more power
Right.
to you, sister.
And
Because
so,
she was very good, and I think the big thing, I think the draw, one of the draws that I think on the show, which is Poker Face, it's on Peacock, is the stylization of each episode. So like,
right,
not only is it like a mystery type show, but each show kind of has this filter through different types of shows or different types of movie style direct. Like you could see he's like doing the Quentin Tarantino style or old school like cult house horror flick movie type
right.
thing. And I found that to be just like really, really interesting because you kind of are going through it. I think it would really get boring if it was just the same note over and over and over again. And it's not overly indulgent and overly reliant on the humor. It's not overly like it's just one of those shows where like everything makes sense.
Yeah,
Even though everything is crazy, everything makes sense. And I think that's a really, really difficult thing that a lot of auteurs try to pull off. But Ryan Johnson, man, he just has this thing when it comes to writing mysteries that I don't know, man. He sees them in a very, very interesting way. And for me, I grew up with my grandmother, so you already know Perry Mason, Matlock, Diagnosis Murder, Murder She Wrote. If they kill
yeah.
somebody and there's some old white people trying to find out how it happened, we was watching it. So definitely feels like updating that for like a new generation. Like I really,
Yeah.
really, I really, really respected how that was done. I also finished Mrs. Davis too.
Okay, so we are on. I think we're either on the last episode or the next to last episode. Um, and
We can
I
talk
definitely
about
want to
that
finish that one.
when you finish,
Okay, when I
because I
finish that,
think that
we'll do a whole episode on Mrs. Davis.
we need an
Uh,
episode. We need an episode about AI and just
mm,
AI and its representation in pop culture, because I think that we ain't listening.
we're really not, and then the writing is on the wall. If you go back to like Black Mirror and just the way technology moves, um,
It's a
yeah,
wrap. It's
yeah.
been a good run, humanity.
I mean, it's like, do you want Terminators? This is how you get Terminators. And yet people still like they do what they do and
We can control them.
right
Cool, cool, cool,
up
cool.
until you can't, and then you're dealing with it. Um, so as we get into tonight's topic, musicals. Um, The very first thing I tried to understand when I was like, we had discussed it previously, and we were saying like, oh yeah, let's do a show on musicals and whatnot. When we were just kind of roundtabling the idea, I was like, well, is this a musical? Is this a musical? Because even when I was talking to my wife about it, and I was telling her this was a show we were going to do, we were kind of like going back and forth as far as like some of the movies, because I was like, let me make a list of the musicals that I've seen that I liked and that sort of thing. And we were having a discussion, and it's like, okay, if a movie has a lot of music in it, does that make it a musical? Does someone in the movie actually have to be singing? Because if you have a movie where someone is singing, does that necessarily, like, if the song doesn't push the narrative of the story forward, does it matter? Um, and so as I was looking and trying to figure out what was what, I went on and I found, thought I had the tab open. Nope, I may have accidentally closed it. But I found a definition for musicals. Maybe it's in my history. Nope, those are all the images. Oh, because I'm still in image search.
You about to do the graduation speech. Webster's Dictionary defines musicals as
right. And so, like initially, I looked at Wikipedia and I was like, I don't want to go with that because that's Wikipedia and Wikipedia is Wikipedia. But Britannica.com, they actually say, right, got to get a good definition. I was looking for Merriam-Webster. I was like, but I like this one. I thought this was perhaps the most consistent. A motion picture consisting of a plot integrating musical numbers. And that kind of stands on the point that we were making earlier, where in some cases, if you just have music telling the story in the background, and a good example, we talked about Toy Story. And because Toy Story has such iconic songs, it's like, well, maybe that one doesn't necessarily count because like Buzz doesn't sing, Andy doesn't sing. But when we were talking about, I think it was Toy Story 2, there's a whole song for Jessie, but Jessie's
sad
not singing.
song.
You know what I'm saying? It's not her singing.
Right.
And because she's the one not singing, it takes it away from being an actual musical. Now, when we started looking, it was like, oh, okay. So just about every Disney animated feature qualifies as a musical. Um, those movies where people break out in the song and everyone, the background characters know the chorus, musical. Um, and I think that's where the misconception of what a musical is, because I think a lot of people, and myself included, when I think of a musical, I think of like a stage play. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's going to be a stage play in movie form, and I don't want to see that. Turns out I do want to see that because I've watched a lot of musicals.
Yeah.
And um, I think to the point you made earlier, the other standard for musicals are going to be things like Singing in the Rain. They might have been dated a little bit, and so you kind of have this, the Sound of Music and things like that, where these are clearly musicals, but because it's older songs or it's a genre of music that you may not have a preference for, you're automatically kind of like, I don't want to hear that. But take something like 500 Days of Summer, where they're using more modern music, even like pop hits. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm totally into this movie. And it has a great soundtrack. And if you have your main characters or, even the background characters, if people are singing and the songs relate to the action or are helping to drive the story, voila, you just watched a musical. So,
Okay. So for me, I'll say this is for me the difference between, because I have a musical and I have music movies, right?
okay.
So for me, the difference between a musical and a music movie is the fantasy element of, or the suspension of reality that you were talking about before, of main characters breaking out into song, background characters participating in song and choreography as like a narrative device. So
Right.
like the characters are singing songs that actually explain like the inner workings of how they feel, or the inner workings of like what they're experiencing, or some sort of exposition about like the story and moving the story along through actual song, but not in. So for instance, like you see you were in a Purple Rain shirt. For me, Purple Rain, I love Purple Rain. It's one of my favorite movies. I consider that a music movie
Right.
because all of the singing is done on stage, and all of the singing in the movie is all of the music that's happening in the movie is recognized as, this is a person performing music and other people are watching this person perform music. Versus
Right.
in Greece, when they sing, Summer Lovin',
They're
he's telling them
explaining.
about this. Yeah, he's telling them about, they're telling each other about, this is what I did over summer vacation. But rather than us having a conversation, or rather than us seeing like a montage, I'm singing the song, you're singing back to me. So we've gone from dialogue to musical dialogue, and we've gone
Right.
from walking through the scenes to choreography, and then it shifts back to like regular walking and talking and stuff. But for me, I think that suspension of disbelief and the use of music in place of regular dialogue, instead of, and not it being like, oh, this person just has like really good taste in music and they make good playlists. It's like, okay, well, music that's a good musical movie, like Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Love that movie. Not a musical to me, just a movie where the plot is being driven by the character's actual love of music. And so they're experiencing that music together, but they are not creating music and as a replacement for actual dialogue or exposition or moving things along through the movie. So I think for me that would be like, just, and I know that, and that for me that's a personal definition of where I kind of personally draw the line between musicals and music movies. Um,
Right.
so I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying this is canon and this is fact, but just for me, when I say musical, that's what I'm talking about. And I think when a lot of people say they don't like musicals, that's what they're talking about. Because people
Right.
love Purple Rain. People will say
Yeah.
I hate musicals all day long, but they ain't gonna say I hate Purple Rain because they don't think about Purple Rain as a musical.
Or
Because
Graffiti
it does,
Bridge, or Under the Cherry
right,
Moon.
right.
Prince
I don't know
fan.
how many people will say they love all those movies, but
Yeah. Graffiti Bridge was not a great movie. By no means was it a great movie. Under the Cherry Moon was actually a pretty decent movie. But again, it was one of those where there's music in it and there's
mm-hmm.
singing in it, but the
Yes,
singing has nothing to do with the narrative. It is typically performance based.
right,
And see, that's where like something like 500 Days of Summer is one that came to mind where I was kind of like on the fence with that. I almost feel like it could work as both a musical or just a rom com because um, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the one singing. It works, but what he's singing is not story based. He's singing just songs. But when you have like they have the whole dancing in the street moment, you know what I'm saying? And like you said, it has the choreography and that sort of thing. It's not really in his head, it's actually happening, but it's still just a visual, not part of the story.
right,
Um, Now you take something like Scott Pilgrim, again, great music in it. The music was integral to the story, but only because the characters were in a band.
right.
It's not a musical, it's just a movie with music in it. And so it is a slippery slope, and that's why I was like, I need a definition so I can say for sure. And it's funny because when my wife and I were talking about it, like we both said Dirty Dancing, and it's like, you know what? Not a single person sings in that movie. It's
No,
not a musical. Still love it.
That's a
Great
dance
movie, but
movie.
right, dance movie.
It's,
But even then, it's like you know the songs, and I think sometimes what happens, especially for me, is I get stuck on this song represents this movie. I had the time of my life. That is Dirty Dancing. You're not going to hear that song and not think of that movie. And
right.
so, because it's so closely associated, I think it's real easy to say, like, oh, yeah, that's got to be a musical, right? They're dancing and there's music, but when nobody's singing, there wasn't a
Yeah.
song, Don't Put Baby in the Corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, if he had
Yeah.
broke out into song right there, explaining why you don't put baby in the corner, maybe we could have made it a musical. It probably would have done fine. But I don't know what Patrick
Right.
Swayze's singing voice was like, so who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I think there's like a lot of movies where, I mean, maybe we can just start by like nipping some movies in the bud so when people are like, you didn't say this one, it's like,
well, here was my list, and it wasn't a super long list, but it was like I said, it actually took a lot more brain power than I thought. Once we had that very clear definition, there was a lot more brain power involved, and I cheated a little bit, and I pulled up like the top 100 musical lists and things like that, and was like, "What have I seen? How many of these do I know? Oh yeah, I saw that one." Um, you know what? You know what he did, but it wasn't story driven. It was performance. And
yeah,
that
he was
again,
trying
thank
to
you,
get the
Jamie.
draws.
Right. He had a whole different motive for that. But it wasn't to explain how he felt. But you know what? Yeah, okay. Ooh, see, it gets real touchy feely like that because all you need is see. Because if you go by standard definitions, if a main character sings, is it a musical? I think we've outlined very clearly what we feel, and this is our definition, and this is going by what Britannica said. Now, you are definitely welcome, those of you who have a difference of opinion, and if anybody wants to come in and tell us what is or is not after we go through some titles, boom, hit us up, let us know. I'm gonna post the link again because it's like way up in the comments now. Um, and you can click this link, it'll bring you in, and that will allow you to be a part of tonight's show. Um, so the very first two that came to mind, The Wiz and The Wizard of Oz. Both musicals,
Yes.
they meet all the criteria, and The Wiz over Wizard of Oz, but both of those absolutely favorites.
Yes.
Following that one, Mary Poppins. It's an old
Yes.
Disney
Very much so.
classic. Yes, that's my wife in the background. That's one of hers right there.
Very much
I'm
so.
gonna go with you on Grease. I'm gonna go with you on Grease. Rocky Horror Picture Show. I can't say
Yes.
that it's a favorite, but it's definitely it's one of those movies that I watched because everybody had talked about it so often that I was like I didn't want to be left out, so I watched the movie, and now I've seen it a number of times, and I enjoyed the movie probably because I've seen it so much. It was weird as hell the first couple of times, and I couldn't understand why people got into it. Eventually, I started to see the appeal. It was definitely like the cult classic type thing. Ooh, that's a good one, Jamie. I didn't even think of that one. Hey, babe, Labyrinth. Yeah, she's in there
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I tell you, anytime somebody says, like, if I say babe, my wife instantly starts singing the babe. Which babe? Babe with like she goes right into it every time. See, she's back there right now singing. Let's see. I have Purple Rain down. I put a question mark because that was what I was like. But I think you've
All
now
right.
said that one.
Yeah. I feel like, okay. So I feel like for me, here's the thing about Purple Rain. Purple Rain is difficult because the music kind of does, in a way, drive the plot sometimes because, like, the songs that he ends up singing on stage kind of are a barometer of like where the characters are in the film, what issues he's having with other characters. But
Right.
for me, it never breaks into the like fantasy element
Correct.
of a musical of like It's not like Prince walking around the club singing and people are singing back to him. It's like, no, you're still performing on stage. You're
Even
still
if he was just like
performing
in the
music.
dressing room in the back singing about his thoughts, it could go that
Yeah,
route. And I and
yeah,
I and I agree. And that's initially like I already had a question mark on it because originally I was like, is that really a musical? Just because I thought about it and I said, okay, 8 Mile, for example. I did not put 8 Mile in the musical category because the whole movie is about rap.
right,
It doesn't, so it's like every time you hear somebody rapping, granted that's the music part of it, and it had a dope soundtrack, and there's good music in the background, but because they're doing rap battles and they're having the freestyle contest, so to speak, like they're just rapping about what's happening in that moment for the character. They're not rapping the character's narrative to move the story. And
right.
that's what I think is happening with Purple Rain, because like when he was leaving, when he left Lake Minnetonka, he could have been
Hmm.
singing something in his head then, and they had something playing in the background. He didn't
Take
actually
me with
sing that
you.
song, right? Like he didn't actually sing that song. That song was
Right. If
perfect
it
for
was a
that
music,
scene.
yeah, if it was a musical, it would have been
Him singing
Apollonia
to her, her
and
singing to him.
Prince, them singing on the motorcycle while riding. But they
Exactly.
don't do any singing unless it's like on stage or they're practicing or it's like specific like musical performance. So yeah,
Right.
that's why for
So
me I kind of have always, and that's not and I think and that's not as a knock on the movie at all. It's just more of like a
no, no.
categorization thing for me, you know.
Right. And that
Although I
and
don't
I
really think a
absolutely
lot of
agree.
people would be mad if they were like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't want my favorite movie to be a musical anyway."
Right. Like that can't have that genre there. And then just rounding out, I have Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the Gene Wilder. And even though technically the Johnny Depp one would still work as well, but that was a weird movie, and I don't know how I feel about that movie still. Chicago, The
Yeah,
Sound of Music. Full disclosure, I did not remember what all songs were in that movie. My wife kind of reminded me. We were going, okay, so yeah, Sound of Music makes the cut. Um, an unnamed amount of Disney movies. I'm not going to sit here and go through the Disney list.
right.
But specifically, the Roger and Hammerstein's, the Whitney Houston version of Cinderella.
Yes,
That was the short list. Did I say Little Shop of Horrors? I'm not sure if I mentioned that one. I feel
you
like I
did
might have
not.
skipped it by accident. Okay, I feel like I might have skipped that by accident. Little Shop of Horrors was also top of the list, right between The Wiz and Mary Poppins, so it was right up there at the top. And so those were the ones, and it was like after I was like, damn, I've seen a lot of musicals, and
Yeah,
because I've seen so many musicals, it's like, oh, okay. And those
I
were the
guess
ones that I was willing to say, like, this is my list. I've seen others that I like, but they just didn't make this list.
right.
If any one of these movies came on, I would just like stop what I'm doing, sit down, and we would watch that movie. That's where these movies fall. Newsies. Okay, yeah. Newsies is the first one you remember seeing. There's another one around that time period. Swing Kids. That's not a musical, but it's like that's the first thing that comes to mind every time I hear Newsies, because Christian Bale was in both of those, and that was a big thing at some point. I don't know why, but Swing Kids. Sweeney Todd. Richard chimes in with Sweeney Todd. Yes, the barber of Beaker Street or something like that. No, Beaker Street is Sherlock
That's
Holmes,
Sherlock Holmes.
right? Barber something. The barber of something.
Yeah, and I mean for me,
Bugs
I
Bunny
think
taught
it's
us the
one. I
barber
think
of
it's
Seville.
yeah. I think it's like one of those things too, where, um, kind of like I said earlier, all of those movies, I think they're so different when you start looking at what the movies actually are. When you start thinking about the types of music, and I think that is the thing. If we're going to get into the therapy of it, that's one of those things that I think that like people who do like musicals could probably like understand a little bit better is that, you know, the type of music in a musical matters. And it doesn't all have to be Sondheim. It doesn't all have to be Andrew Lloyd Webber. It doesn't, you
Right.
know, and that very like because I think, you know, like you said earlier, you thinking about you think about stuff like a stage play. And the reason you think about a stage play is because so many musicals have that stage play type of music to it. But then you start thinking, you know, as you get later in the years and people are making like musicals that have different types of music in it, whether you're talking about like a Hamilton or even just like updating the type of, you know, theatrical music, including other types of modern instruments. So you think about like Wicked or something like that, which is not a
Mm.
movie yet, but I mean, I've seen it like on stage, and it's incredible. Um, for me, I think the power of the musical is there are just things that you can express through song that require too much talking or too many like scrolling scenes, and you can just get to the heart of things, I think, a lot better sometimes with music. But I say that as a person who grew up playing instruments and grew up, you know, in the band and grew up, you know, basically music has been like a huge part of my life, my entire life, from playing the piano to the drums to making beats to singing in the choir to, you know, DJing, making like I a lot of things that I do are very like music focused. And so I think like there's an honesty that comes in musicals when characters are expressing themselves. And I do think the other thing is when a musical is bad, it's really bad. And that's
What?
another way that's another way to like really turn people off. It's like you can
Yeah.
watch like bad movies with and like eventually get to a point where you like laughing at stuff. But when you watching a musical and you're not really enjoying it, it's like the last thing you want to do is start hearing two people sing about some story or some people who you just don't care about at all.
Yeah.
And I think that with everything, I always say it's just important to find the type of musical or the type of whatever thing we're talking about that you like. It's like somebody saying like I don't like comic books. It's like, well, you don't like superheroes, but there's a whole bunch of other different types of comics out there that you just have to find a comic that talks about something that you're interested in, and they exist. The
Right.
superhero ones are the most prevalent, just like the Sondheim and the Andrew Lloyd Webber. Musicals are more prevalent, but there are musicals out there that are not as reliant upon that style of music. And then there are just musicals that are just like good. And I think sometimes when people watch a good musical, they think of it as like the exception, and they try to like make it like a non-musical when it's just like no, that was a musical that counts. Like you don't you can't take away like the credit from that. So yeah, I guess I could talk a little bit about some of the ones I like, and I don't have like a
Okay.
list written down, unless you wanted to go somewhere else. But you know, I'm
Oh,
open
no, no,
to
no. I
whatever.
mean, like there's you can start with yours because the first thing that came to mind was I was thinking about like some of the like the modern musicals because the genre of music because like when you mentioned Hamilton, it's like if they just make that a movie, that's how many people are going to go see that? If somebody, because I feel like so many people have seen the play numerous times,
I've seen the
and
play, and it's very very good. I'll say this: I am a hip hop fan. I grew up on it. I love it. It's probably my second favorite genre after R&B. I did not like the Hamilton soundtrack when it came out, and everybody was like, "This is amazing," and blah blah blah. I listened to this Hamilton soundtrack, and I was like, "What is this ABC 1 2 3 Sesame Street rap that they doing?" I'm not
right,
fit. Like for me, it is not something that I could sit down and just listen to. But for me, honestly, a lot of songs for musicals are not things that I can listen to on their own. They work better
Without
within the context
I
of
was gonna say
actually
without the
watching
context
the
of the
story.
visual.
When I saw Hamilton live, like the stage play, I was blown away, but it was because of the entire production of it all.
Right.
The choreography, the stage, the performance of those people singing live, especially the women. Like the women in Hamilton, like it's called Hamilton, but it need to be called Hamiltina because they steal the show if you have not seen it. They're it's incredible, it's powerful, and I really think that context is very very important sometimes when with a lot of people. So I'm not a person who not like with that experience. I'm not a person. I don't judge a musical just by the music. I always have to see it within the context of the actual movie or play that I'm watching because the point of the music that you're watching is to understand the story that's being told. So if you've never seen the movie Grease, the song Summer Lovin' doesn't hit the same way because you just listen to like two people sing like back and forth, but you don't know these are two people who were in love over the summer, going to the same school, don't know they're going to the same school. They think they never gonna see each other again. And they
Yeah.
singing the same song from across campus, a whole campus in a frenzy, everybody skipping across the basketball courts, jumping down the bleachers, all this crazy stuff is happening. And they don't even know they're at the same school. They're just talking about a summer romance that they had, two very different stories because obviously Danny, played by John Travolta, he's telling
Yeah.
it one way, he's doing locker room talk,
I
and
was about to say the
Sandy
way he
is
saw it ain't quite the same as the way she saw it.
yeah, and Sandy is she's telling this, she's probably telling the more truthful version of it if we're gonna be real about how stuff like that works. So I think that seeing things within the context is really really important element, at least for me as a musical lover. And like you said, the genre thing is important. I think Hamilton being I am glad that like a bunch of like knockoff hip hop musicals have not popped up since then. Like I was very worried about that, but I
They
think
were thinking,
that
oh, Hamilton was successful. We can do one too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
yeah,
I
I
do
mean,
think another thing is just like the musicals with black music. I like those better. The Wiz, like you said, the Wiz over the Wizard of Oz. I know that sounds like blasphemy for a lot of people. And then in terms of in terms of like success and box office and all that, and importance in like American culture, it might be
right.
blasphemous. But the music in the Wiz is way better. And I think, you know, I stand. This is no disrespect to Diana Ross, but I stand on the fact that they should have got somebody younger to play Dorothy because she just sometimes comes across like, bro, you're like 35 and you are scared of the wind. And I'm just not getting it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to performing the music and the dance numbers and all that stuff, she hit the nail right on the head. And it's a
She
black
did it. She did a thing as
Thanksgiving classic.
Dorothy. When you see her in Oz, you can kind of be okay with how everything is.
Yeah, the
That opening
Thanksgiving
segment,
scene.
that opening segment, like honestly, nothing in that movie counts till she is in Oz.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's where the movie really starts.
Which is
And
sad because that opening song with the family is beautiful.
oh, it's an
But
amazing song. Just
you just are
that
like, why
scene.
is she acting like that?
But when they did it was like 20, how long ago was that? 2015, I think. They
Oh,
did a
the
remake of
remake,
The Wiz. And it was a TV thing.
a TV adaptation of the stage play. So they did a live stage play
Right.
on TV.
And showed that on TV. And again, see, that's one of those moments where it's like it confused me because I'm like, okay, you got me hooked because it's The Wiz, but it's a play. I don't want to do that, but it's on TV. so I don't have to go to the play. And it's the Wiz again. And with some of the people that you have in it, it's like, okay, I'm expecting the music's gonna really pop, and it's like, wow, Queen Latifah. Okay, didn't know that. Shantae Williams, Common, Neo, like there was some singing.
Yeah, I'll say Neo's version of If I Could Feel, that's a banger for me. Like
Yeah,
I think, that goes into some of my personal rules about musicals, in that, like, respect to Nipsey Russell and the job that he did, but he
but I
wasn't a
think
singer.
no, I was about to say
And
I
what
think that
Neo
was
did,
a I won't call it a period piece, but it was a different time, and so what Nipsey did was acceptable, and it was good.
yes, yes,
It was
very much
good
so.
for that show. It was good for that time. But if they had gotten like, a full R&B cast to do the singing, it would have been I think it would have made um now imagine if it
No,
had been
Nipsey
Nipsey
Russell.
Hussle. No, he's like, imagine if it had been Nipsey Hussle, not Nipsey Russell. That would have been
Ain't no
that's
way.
a whole different Oz right there. I
Ease
think that
on
was the
down
one
the
that was on
road, cuz.
that would have been the one that was on HBO. It's a different Oz.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's
but
crazy.
yeah,
Like listening to like Michael Jackson sing in that, and it's just like I gotta sing with him. Like that's what I would
right.
have been like. Like he was
And
so good,
honestly,
they made up. He was so good, they made up a song. They made up a song for that You Can't Win. That's not in the original play. That's Quincy Jones hearing Michael and understanding, and they're like, we got to give Michael like a solo. He got to get something on his
I mean,
own
it's Michael
for
Jackson.
this.
How do you not take that? How do you not take advantage of that?
Well, no, you got to remember though. This is
Yeah, yeah,
this is before Off the Wall.
right.
So this is like, because the Wiz is where Quincy and Michael met, and Quincy and Michael convinced Quincy to do Off the Wall with him after working with him on the Wiz. So
Yeah, that was not okay. Yeah, yeah, 1978.
So yeah, so it's like Michael's, and so you got to think about it. Michael's coming off of being a child star. Child stars don't often transition into adult stars very well. They're coming off of like all the turmoil at Motown and wanting to do their own stuff, and Berry Gordy not really wanting to let his own artists like write and control and produce and stuff. So then they end up leaving and going to CBS, but Jermaine stays on Motown because he's married to Berry Gordy's daughter. And so then they replaced Jermaine with Randy, and they become the Jacksons. And so they had like some marginal success, but not marginal. They had success, but not anywhere near the amount of success that they had as
As
the
the Jackson
Jackson
Five.
Five on Motown early on. So Michael is kind of in this transitional phase of like, is he really gonna like make it on his own as like a solo artist? And this is like one of the first times like nationally you're seeing like adult Michael like do his thing. And I think, like Quincy Jones has an interview where he said Michael knew everybody's part, he knew everybody's choreography, he was the utmost professional, and his experience working there. The Wiz is why we have Off the Wall, Thriller, Bad, all those albums, because of the relationship that they cultivated working on the Wiz. So even if people don't think it's that great of a film, it's important in the cultural zeitgeist just because of the relationship that formed through that movie.
Now,
Also, some of
what's
the videos that Michael did, which were directed by Sidney Lumet, The Wiz directed by Sidney Lumet. So just throwing that out there.
well, let me put my damn glasses back on before I say anything else. Shit. Like, and the crazy part is, so here's what's funny about all of that. Like, all of that is the connections you just pointed out. All of that is news to me because I don't remember the first time I saw The Wiz. I just know that I have always seen The Wiz.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The Wiz was made in 1978. It never occurred to me that The Wiz came out before Off the Wall. Because by the time I saw The Wiz, I already knew who Michael Jackson was.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson was already a star, was a megastar by the time I saw The Wiz and could remember having seen The Wiz. So, of course, when I go back and I look and I'm like, Michael Jackson was the biggest thing in this movie. When in fact,
Yeah,
no,
it
he
was
wasn't.
actually Diana Ross.
Right. And just like when you say, like, how did we get Diana Ross? Because it was Diana Ross. That's what people were going to see. And it's like, oh, that's that kid from the Jackson 5. And it's like, okay, cool. And
Well, and it had like
I had never put
he
that
did
together.
have some. He had some like it was like a lot of cult buzz around it because he did star in it on Broadway as well, and everybody was like, "Yo, he's killing it." But you know, everything
See,
doesn't
I
always
already knew you had
translate
your
from the
glasses on. I
stage.
told you we was getting schooled. I told you we was getting schooled today. This is why we had this show. This is music history right here. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, this is important because I promise you, people don't notice. And that little bit right there, I'm clipping that out. That's a whole little segment. I'm putting that up. That was amazing information because I'm gonna tell you, I didn't know that. I did not know that. I
yeah,
know the Off the
yeah.
Wall
So
album, like, yeah, wow. So we learned something.
yeah, so there's a really good documentary that I think Spike Lee did about Off the Wall, and like there's good interviews in there where they talk about it there, and there's a good like if you like documentaries, it's on YouTube and like different parts cut up, but there's an Off the Wall documentary and there's a documentary on Bad that Spike Lee directed. He just interviewed everybody who had like parts to
That
play
one
in
I'm
the
familiar with.
movies.
No. That
Yeah,
one I know. That was like Bad
it was like
25.
Bad
Bad.
25 or something like that.
Yeah, that one I know. I didn't know there was one
Yeah,
on Off the Wall, but it makes
yeah.
sense.
After the Bad one, they did an Off the Wall one.
Okay. Now, see, I would go back and check that out. That feels like that. You know what? All of that feels like some behind. Remember VH1 behind the music? Like
Mm-hmm.
all that good information you would get and like the stuff you
Yep.
would learn. Where we
Yeah.
found out that Vanilla Ice really actually tried to defend, not because he didn't know, but because he was told to. You know what I'm saying? He was told to just deny, deny, deny. Even though he
Yeah.
knew right from rip. And they did that boy wrong. They didn't have to do Robert like that. Just hung him out to dry. So because he was like, no, see, like theirs goes dun 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 dun. Ours goes dun 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 dun. Like, but stop. Just stop. Don't
Yeah.
try to make sense of that.
I get it. He's trying not to mess the money up.
Right. And then, like I said, they put him out front and hung him out there. So with your list, what are some of the ones that now, like I have my little list, and of course these are just the top ones that come to mind. Other than Grease, what are some of the other standout musicals that you've watched and enjoyed?
All right. So obviously, like we talked a lot about the Disney ones, right?
Right.
Aladdin for me, that's my favorite Disney movie. And it's because
Okay.
of the music, to be honest with you. I think A Whole New World is probably it's my second favorite. It was my favorite Disney song for a very, very long time until Tangle came out, and I See the Light eclipse that a little bit. And I wish
Okay.
that they would go back to what they used to do in the 90s. You remember when they would have like a black person sing an R&B
Right.
version of the
Look,
song?
I just can't wait to be king. That is it. That is still it.
Well, actually, that's not them having a black person sing a version. So anybody know me, y'all know I work for 85 South. I design their merch. Jason Weaver was
Right.
on an episode of 85 South show. He talked about this. The way he got that role was he played young Michael Jackson, just to bring it all full circle in Jackson story, American saga, or whatever it is. The long ass movie that everybody watched on VH1 all the time. He played little Michael Jackson. He said one day they were doing a set where he had to actually sing because the playback wasn't working right, and he's belting out "Who's Loving You" over and over and over. But he's like on a stage and they have light shining at him, so he can't see who's in the audience. Apparently, in the audience that day, Sir Elton John, and he comes in and is basically like, "I got to get this kid to sing for the Lion King soundtrack." And they brought him in. He sang "Just Can't Wait to Be King," and they were like, just like be expressive because we want to. And they had like animators in there watching his expressions. They were videotaping him, and a lot of like the facial expressions you see Simba making during that song is actually them kind of using his facial expressions while singing to do that. And they said he was so good that they honestly were almost getting ready to talk about replacing Jonathan Taylor Thomas. But Jonathan Taylor, I think they said they were in talks of whether or not they weren't going to get him. But Jonathan Taylor Thomas literally signed the contract while he was like recording the song. So it was literally like a matter of like hours that he just missed out on not just being the singing voice of Simba, but the actual voice of Simba too. Definitely make sure you can go check out the episode of 85 South on YouTube though with Jason Weaver where he talks about that because it's a really interesting episode. I never knew that part because black people would be like, see, they got to make Simba sing black, but then they're gonna get a white boy out of talking roles and this and that. So he kind of explained how that ended up happening. But Lion King, yes, but Peebo Bryson and Regina Bell have an R&B version of Whole New World. Yeah. Vanessa Williams did like Colors of the Wind. And they used to just do these kind of like R&B versions or for adult radio versions because like you're not about to listen to the radio and listen to like, kids sing. So that was part of the reason why Whole New World was one of my favorites because I used to listen to the Peebo Bryson version. And if you ain't never heard that version, go listen to that version.
Go check that out.
You can understand why that one wasn't in the cartoon, but you can understand why it was made. But Aladdin for sure growing up. Just all the music in there was just to me so good. Again, Tangled for one of the more modern ones, I think had a very, very good soundtrack. Mandy Moore, Zachary Levi. Who knew Zachary Levi could sing like that? But that's that one is a little more Sondheimish. Beauty and the Beast, clearly like one of the classics. I know the music of Little Mermaid just because my little sister was obsessed with Little Mermaid to the point where she used to make us call her Ariel. Her name is Aisha, and like somehow she don't have Ariel nowhere in her name, but somehow now it's like one of her second middle names. Like she get mail with Aisha, Ariel, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, your name is not Ariel. But she was just so insistent that we was like, it's just easier if we just call her Ariel and just let it go. So
let it be.
I haven't seen the new one yet. So, I'll see how that changes things, seeing the new one. But, I definitely am a big fan of Halle Bailey's voice. I think she's a phenomenal singer and she's a really good actress. Getting into some of the live action stuff, obviously Grease. I've been watching that since I was a kid. It's my favorite movie, not just my favorite musical, but just my favorite movie in general. Like anybody who watched the show, y'all know I like high school stuff. I like coming of age stuff. I like love stories. This is basically all of that wrapped into one with good music to it. And I think that's when you start getting
make the cut.
No, I was too old. I was not the target. I was it missed. See, Grease to me is more like, okay, the music is doing the music of the time, which is doo-wop, which is black music essentially. But so the music hits me a little bit better, and also I love Olivia Newton-John's singing voice. I don't like Vanessa Hudgens' singing voice. Zac Efron's okay, but I think Olivia Newton-John is
all about Corbin Blue, man. It's all about Corbin Blue and Ashley Tisdale.
If only it was all about them. But yeah, nah, that they missed me with that. I mean, I watched some of the new Disney Channel musicals. I watched like I would say I like Descendants more than I like High School Musical. The Descendants
Yeah,
series
I saw
is
the first
decent.
one. I saw the first one, and I do
Yeah,
remember
they get
liking
better.
that a lot. Really? Okay.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, I watched Zombies. I wasn't really feeling that one too much. It was kind of like Zombies was a little. It was a little too cheesy to me, but not enough removed from the real world. Like Descendants is very like this is clearly like fake fantasy land. Zombies
Right.
is kind of like this is the fantasy world. Like Zombies felt like a stage play where
Zombies
it's like
wanted to be real. They tried to ground and make reality too real, and took away the
yeah,
fantasy element of zombies. Um,
yes.
and
But then
there's
I'll
some
get into
cases
some
where
of
you
the
can do that, but other times it doesn't work.
yeah.
And I think for the theme there, it doesn't really work. That would be great, like animated, but
I think Annie obviously is like all time
ooh,
classic.
ooh,
A
baby,
lot of good,
Annie.
a lot of different ones.
I'm tripping. We didn't even like that. Didn't even. Damn, we didn't think of that.
And
Annie.
then I'm gonna go into and I'm gonna be real. There's a lot of musicals I just haven't seen just because the subject matter does not interest me. So like I've seen Rocky Horror once. I've seen it just to say I've seen it. But like I don't really want to watch Fiddler on the Roof or none of that. Now this is what I will say. Barbara Streisand, that's my dog. Okay. Funny Girl
Funny girl.
and what's the other one? Shit. Oh, Hello Dolly. Hello
Okay.
Dolly is my jam. Like I think that here's the thing.
Hello.
Here's the thing about Barbara Streisand is what made me really understand what I like about musicals because she like Olivia Newton John, she like um between Grease and then like the lesser known Xanadu, she is essentially like the same
Sanity.
person. She's the same like singing style kind of. It's just like I'm just like the sweet, perfect, angelic girl that everybody wants. Barbara Streisand is in both movies essentially a woman who does everything her own way, how she wants to do it. And Barbara Streisand makes you fall in love with her simply through the power of how she performs, how she emotes, how she gets the ideas of the song across, not just through singing and hitting notes, but the emotion behind them and her facial acting. Like in Hello Dolly, she is the way she is dressed. She got a big ass church hat, dress up, collar up to here, long sleeve, petticoat. The only thing you see of Barbara Streisand in Hello Dolly is her face and her hands. And by the end of the movie, it's like, yo, Walter Matthau, if you don't stop tripping and get into this, like, you crazy. You know what I mean? But like, then in Funny Girl, so okay, it's two completely different stories, right? Hello Dolly is this old story. If anybody's seen the movie Wally, Hello Dolly is the movie that Wally plays for Eve to get her to like try to get with her, right? So when
Okay.
they put on your Sunday clothes, when they're like dancing, it only takes a moment is like their song. That's the song that
Ooh.
made me go back and be like, what is this? And then I went on YouTube, watched It Only Takes a Moment from Hello Dolly. I was like, I need to see this whole movie because this song is like really, really, really good. And so there's like a few standout songs for me. They got the big Hollywood MGM numbers, Put On Your Sunday Clothes, which is like, you know, crazy. Then they've got some really, really nice, sweet moments, sweet songs like Ribbons Down My Back and It Only Takes a Moment. And the story within that is cool. Barbara Streisand, she's basically playing like a matchmaker. and she's trying to help all these different people fall in love. And so you have these different characters who are going throughout the movie and just missing each other, falling in love, et cetera, et cetera. But then in the end, she's like, well, who's going to take care of me? You know what I mean? So
Right.
Funny Girl, however, that's like, she basically is like this girl who they're like, why don't you just act more like a lady? Like nobody thinks women are funny. That's the premise of the movie. And she wants to be funny. And she goes on this like lifetime adventure, falling in love, becoming like this world-renowned like actress through her like humor and singing and acting. But you know, it's really about like, is she really, the more she gets in her professional accolades, it's hard to be the woman who has it all. So her family suffers, her relationship suffers the more that she gets, and she's trying to like hold it all together. And she just, the song that she sings at the end of Funny Girl, like I watched this movie on a plane, and I was, my mouth was open. It was this little old white lady sitting next to me. She was like, "Your first time seeing that?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "What'd you think?" I was like, "Incredible." So
y'all
I
have
would
to understand.
definitely
Jeff has seen a lot of plane movies, so in some cases, if he gives a movie a compliment on a plane, that is a
Oh,
big
yeah.
deal.
I'll turn the movie off on the plane. I ain't about to stay here through this whole flight watch some BS.
You're not gonna force me to suffer.
No. I'll
So
turn it off. I'll
folks
close
need
my
to
eyes and listen
understand
to
how
music.
important that is.
So
So
I would
what
say
was the
like,
name of that song? What was the name
which
of that?
one?
The song in Hello Doll. No, Funny Girl. You said it was the end of Funny Girl?
I don't even remember the name of it. I was just so blown away. Like, Honey Girl.
See, if it's the final song, give me a second. I'll find it.
My Man, I think. I think it's called My Man. So yeah, I think that like that is those two for me like cement. Like I was one of those people. I was like, I don't get Barbara Streisand because the only thing I had heard about her was just like on white sitcoms, like gay people and white people like, oh, Barbara, we love her. And I'm just like, for what? Like I see her in interviews. It's like whatever. I had never really like seen her work. It was like that Shaq meme. It was like, I apologize. I was not familiar with your game.
Right.
Because she's a powerhouse. And I think, you know, obviously like you spoke about the Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, Julie Andrews, Sound of Music. That's something that, you know, I've seen it once. I wasn't that into it. I definitely am more of a Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews person.
Right.
And then what else was I going to say? Polly.
This song?
Those yes. Yeah.
So
we definitely don't
it
get flagged.
it is My Man.
Yeah. But watching it like this is kind of like, okay, but watching the whole movie and seeing her
No. And I
is like,
I absolutely understand. Because see, it's just like to hear you say that, of course, it's like, well, I've got to make a couple notes because here's a few I gotta watch. Because I've not seen Hello Dolly. I've not seen Funny Girl.
that's I mean, and I wouldn't I'll say this: watch Hello Dolly first. That would be my suggestion because I think that it is.
Now I grew up on Julie Andrews, so
It's yeah,
seen all that.
yeah. But yeah, so Hello Dolly feels more like Mary Poppins.
Okay.
Like it's brighter, it's fun, it's bright colors. There's jaunty songs in it. You know what I mean? Big set pieces and numbers. So and then I think something that I miss was the black versions. So like we talked about The Wiz, but there was a movie in the 90s that remade an old white musical Pollyanna called Polly, starring Felicia Rashad, Keisha Knight Pulliam, and a bunch of other black people. So Pollyanna was this movie about this little white girl who I think her parents died and she has to move to live with her aunt. And her aunt is just like the mean old lady in the town, but she rich, so she owns everything. So everybody's scared of her. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? So the town has no fun. Think about like the movie Pleasantville. right? And Pollyanna comes to town, and she's like, why is everybody acting like this? Like everything is so like there's so much to be happy about and joyous. And she brings music and joy to this town, right? Before, not I mean, I'm not gonna spoil the ending of it, but that's basically the gist of it. It's like her and her aunt kind of at odds with like her aunt just being like, life is not like a game. You're supposed to like be serious, be business minded. Her aunt, I think her aunt's like a widower, and so she's very much like people need to take me seriously, which contextually I didn't get as a kid, but like when you learn about like how little rights women had in that time when the movie is set, it's like yeah,
Movies
like when your
came out
husband
in the
died, like
60s.
yeah, but
The
it was like
original
set in
Pollyanna
like
came out in the 60s. So yeah,
but
it
it
would
was
be
set in
set
like the
prior to
40s.
that. Right.
Yeah. And so she's just on some like nobody coming for me or my money. I own this whole town, right? And Pollyanna is on some like, yeah, but like, what's the point of having all this stuff if you're not happy, if you don't share it with people, if you don't share joy? So Pollyanna is a remake, but a black version. And so just like the Wiz, they flip all the music, they make it, you know, happier. And, like I said, Felicia Rashad, I think Debbie Allen directed it, maybe, and choreographed it. I'm not sure. I know she choreographed it. I'm not sure if she directed it or not. But I remember watching that as that was like an after school program staple when I was a kid growing up, Pollyanna, because all the girls wanted to watch it all the time, and I liked it too. Like the guys liked it, but when it was like when the guys turned to pick, guys picked Ninja Turtles. When the girls turned to pick, they picked Polly. Sorry. So
Gotcha.
I thought that was like a really, really like, and it was made for TV. It came on like it was like an NBC like Sunday night movie. So I definitely would suggest checking that one out. And then I'm gonna just go through this because, like you said, I can't remember. Oh, Guys and Dolls, Marlon Brando, Frank
Okay.
Sinatra. Really, really fascinating story. Basically, Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra they're like con men, gamblers, degenerates, and they make one of those bets. You bet you can't get the next girl that walks in. The next girl walks in is not a nun, but she's like basically like a missionary. So Marlon Brando is trying to woo this woman who's like a missionary. And I think the thing that a lot of people don't really understand, like movies like that, Wizard of Oz, like those are some of our standards. So like you're talking about sit down, you're rocking the boat. That's like a big time story. West Side Story. I watched the new one.
You had work,
and I'm going to roll this into.
I was about to say you had thoughts about the new one not too long ago. I remember.
I have thoughts about West Side Story in general. I think that it's a weird movie when it comes to the end. Like Maria is one of them characters where I'm like, I don't think you're really making good decisions right now. But I think that, West Side Story and La La Land are two musicals that really cemented for me. Everybody cannot be in the musical. If you cannot sing, like you have to be able to sing and dance. If you can't dance, your singing better make up for it. La La Land, no. Big no. They tricked me. That first opening number in La La Land, legit. But that's because ain't none of the main characters in that one. That's all the ensemble. And those are actually real singers, real dancers. When we get to Emma Stone and what's his name, Ryan Gosling singing, no. I don't care if you learn how to play the piano. It's not a piano playing movie. This is a musical. So I need to know that my main characters, especially, like I'm looking for Danny and Sandy. I'm looking for, real chemistry. I'm looking for energy.
That makes sense.
And they did not. I don't feel like they really brought that in that film. Whereas you get to something like the Steven Spielberg West Side Story, and maybe it's just me and my preferences. But the Puerto Ricans blew all the white people off the stage, off the screen in that movie. Like I remember, I watched that on the plane too, and I was watching that on the plane. Like I see why Ariana DeBose won this Oscar. Like the scene where they doing "Live in America" and she in that yellow dress with them red shoes dancing in the street.
Yeah,
that's the Oscar right there. Like she blew it away, and that's not even talking about the acting and the passion and everything that she brought to it. Like that movie for me is one of the, and I need to go back and rewatch the original just to see like what the balance was, because I do feel like I wonder if there was like that much flavor in the first one with Rita Moreno, because this one when they did that song with all the Puerto Rican stuff, it was a lot of flavor, and the Sharks not so much, and it was a very like stage musically way of singing, and I don't always love that, but that's also just a personal preference of mine. But I would say the way that movie is shot is beautiful. I also think that like some of the songs, but I think Maria in that movie feels very much in the classical sense, and I didn't feel as much flavor from her as I did from like the other Brown characters. So I had a lot to unpack while I was watching that one. Shoot, there was another musical I just thought of that I was going to run through, but yeah, those are the one. I mean, Dreamgirls, obviously, In the Heights. But see, there's stuff like Les Mis, Greatest Showman. I'm not interested in that stuff.
You know what? Okay, so let me say, my daughter has made me watch Greatest Showman. She has watched that movie probably more times than any other movie. Like she's seen that movie so many times. And because she's had it on so many times, I know there's at least once or twice I just walked by and it was on, and I stay there for a second and catch this part, catch that part, and then finally one day I just like went in there, sat down with her, and just like, we gonna watch this movie because you watch this movie all the time. What is the big deal about this movie? And it was an opportunity to have some daddy-daughter time, that kind of thing. And so I sat and I watched that movie, and that is a good movie. That is a really good, like, when you see all of the songs in that movie are very powerful songs, and they got really talented people to sing those songs. And that's the part. And I think sometimes with the musical that can really like make a big difference. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have, I mean, kind of like we were saying, if you have whack music in your musical, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take me out of that moment. If you have people that can't really sing, it's going to take me out of that moment. And I don't know. I kind of feel like I probably need to check out like Les Miserables. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't care what that didn't even look appealing to me. It doesn't look interesting.
You don't because there's so many other musicals out there that you could watch that you would actually enjoy. That I'm not one of those people where it's like you have to see this, and this. Like, watch what you like. Watch the kind of stuff you like. Like if you wasn't gonna sit down and watch a movie just about like the French Revolution without music, then why do you feel the need to sit down and watch Les Miserables? Like I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. He stole some bread.
Yeah.
But I did want to. Okay, so this is one thing I did want to bring up that I want the movie I did want to bring up, because Disney is in this like we're making live versions of all our stuff right now, right? And a lot of people are kind of, there's a lot of feelings about that.
Right.
There is a live action Disney musical that was done very, very well. Enchanted. Not an adaptation, but it's more exposition on the fairy tale story. So that's the one with Amy Adams and Dr. McDreamy from what's it called, Grey's Anatomy, and
Patrick something.
What's her name? Adina Menzel also is
Okay.
in that movie, and James Marsden is in that movie.
Okay.
I think
Was that Ella Enchanted?
no, that's different. Ella Enchanted is a Cinderella movie,
Okay.
but
Okay.
Enchanted is so in Enchanted, it starts off as an animated movie. The princess and the prince is about to marry Amy Adams' character. The evil queen puts like some curse on them, or something happens at the wedding, and Amy Adams gets sucked into the real world. So she's a cartoon princess in a real world. And the real
Gotcha.
world is just like, what is all this going on? She meets the doctor, and he's very much grounded in reality, and he's engaged to Adina Menzel. And then Amy Adams swoops in and brings all this magic to her, to his life. She's talking to animals and this and that and whoop de whoop. I would say that's how you'll know. That to me is like a quintessential live action Disney musical number,
Okay.
because it starts off, they're like talking, and then the interesting thing about it is this is not a world where like musicals exist. So like this musical number just happens because she's a magical princess essentially,
Okay.
and he's looking around like WTF. There's music coming through somewhere. Is this me? Do you have music coming in your headphones?
I didn't think anything was still playing. What music
Maybe
are
it's
you
me.
hearing?
No, it's gone now. Sorry, it was a pop up happened on one of my tabs. Sorry,
I was like, no, I
but
thought I got all the music.
yeah. So she's like this. She's a musical princess, and they're having this conversation about like he's like, how do you know like somebody's the one? And she's like, she's singing, but they're like walking through Central Park, and then all these other people like start joining into her like song and all this other stuff like that, and he's just like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like this
How is this
Jamaican
even
dude
possible?
singing, and this dude, and it kind of like pulls in all these elements from different Disney musicals throughout the years as well. But
Right.
I think like I would be much more interested in like Disney making movies like that, where like maybe
Okay.
you're playing on a trope, because like the Beauty and the Beast remake, I'm sorry, like the only person who knew they was in the musical in that movie was Josh Gad. Like everybody else, like Emma, what's her name? Emma, Harry Potter, Emma. Flat,
Okay.
dry,
Her.
not interested, you know. And that story
Emma
is really
Watson.
weird, acted out in real in live action.
Yeah.
Like seeing a real human, seeing a cartoon Belle fall in love with Beast is weird enough. Seeing a real human woman fall in love with a beast is like, this is
And then
unsettling.
a real beast. But you know what's crazy? Like there was a TV show years ago
Kristen
starring Linda
Kruk.
Hamilton.
Oh,
Well, no, there was that one too. But I'm talking even before that, Linda Hamilton from Terminator, like she was on a TV show called Beauty and the Beast, and um, she was like you know what? Think of like this is another tie-in because that's all we do. We loop everything back. When we had our discussion the other day about a live action gargoyles, I thought about this TV show, Beauty and the Beast, because it was Linda Hamilton and um, it was like a lion esque character. Like he looked like a lion. He had like the snout and the whiskers, the whole nine, big mane of hair, and it was a TV show. And so when we were talking about gargoyles, I was kind of thinking I needed that kind of vibe. So it could be done. And that was one of those things where, like, because he was more man than beast, it worked. But as you mentioned, when you're watching Beauty and the Beast and you got my man, he got like his legs bent back and stuff. Nah, I'm not okay with that. Not okay with that. Cause what is Belle on? Like, you mean to tell me you ain't
right.
read not one book to tell you that's not right? All the books you read and this is okay? Okay.
But
All
you don't
right.
have no anatomy books,
Right.
because
Like
this
you
is not
need
going to work, my sister.
this is all righty. Um that's just whew. Now I would definitely be good with I would be curious. I would make it a point to I would put Enchanted down. Um because they've actually come out with a sequel for that, Disenchanted. Um,
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet, but I plan on it.
but I figured it was the same thing, and I think like now, of course, they've now that she's a part of the real world, and she, I guess, I don't know if she like. Well, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. I will have to check out the first movie, but the second movie seems like there's trouble in paradise, and I need to know like what may have gone wrong based on other stuff. I would say of the modern something that's it falls into the category of remake, but this is a completely different telling of a story that we've seen 1,000 times, and this was straight up musical. So much so that they have fourth wall moments in it, indicating, yeah, this is a musical number. My wife had us sign up for, I think we signed up for like Apple TV so we could watch Spirited
Oh,
with Will Ferrell. That was her in the background yelling out yes because she. But we signed up for Apple TV just so we could watch Spirited with Will Ferrell and Ryan
Ryan Gosling.
Reynolds. No,
Ryan
Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Sorry.
And that was a great movie.
I need
That
to
was a
watch it. I
great.
haven't seen it.
And here's the funny thing. You and I even told her, like, you tricked me into watching a musical. I didn't know it was a musical. When I sat down, she was just like, "Will you watch it?" And I should have known something was wrong because she kept saying, like, "Will you sit down and watch this movie with me? I want to watch this movie. Will you watch it with me?" If she's asking me like that, typically that means it's something I don't want to watch or something that she understands would not be on my to watch list. I sat down, I watched, and I think that might have been the first time I was like, you know what? I guess I've seen more musicals than I thought because I enjoyed that movie. It made a big difference that it was a good movie. It had good songs. Good afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Like that is a hilarious song. It's funny, it fits, and it is actually a part of the narrative of the story. Um, and so having all of that in a movie, Spirited would be one that absolutely fits the bill to be a modern musical. Um, and I would be
Oh, speaking
very
of Apple TV, and kind of shit, I guess shifting a little bit from movies because there's also musical TV shows now. So there is on Apple TV. There is a show called Schmigadoon with Keegan Michael Key and
say less. Yeah, I watch
Cicely.
it. I watch it. Keegan
What's her
Michael
name? She
Key.
was on SNL. Yeah. So basically, it's about a couple. They go on like this retreat out in the woods. They're walking in the woods. They get lost in a place called Schmigadoon, and basically, it's modeled after the musical Oklahoma. So it's this small town, and their relationship is kind of on the rocks. And as they go through these different events through the show in every episode, it kind of pushes them apart, back together, etc. Ariana DeBose is in that movie, is
Look,
in this show as
I don't
well.
know if you saw my face. I was
Um,
like, oh, I watched that.
yeah.
Got my attention.
So, and I would say, as far as like traditional musicals, it's good because it does have that mix that you need for, I think, a modern audience of like two modern day characters being dropped into Oklahoma. And then there's a season two that's based around Chicago, which I haven't watched yet, but same two characters drop in Chicago in the Chicago musical setting. So that's one TV show that I would definitely suggest just off the strength of having watched season one. It's really funny because they also deal with some of the like stuff you see in musicals, like characters who are clearly gay, but like are not out because of the times that the musical is like set in. And then there's another show called Crazy Ex Girlfriend that came out on Fox a while ago. That is a musical. It's weird because it's basically like the musical aspect of it. I think is that the main character is having this like almost psychotic break. Not 100% sure, but basically like this girl like randomly runs into a guy who she dated like at camp once in high school and ends up like quitting her job and moving to like the town that he lives in because she thinks that they're meant to like be together, and craziness ensues. It starts off very promising. It kind of goes off the rails, I think, around season 3, in my personal opinion. But the songs are very funny because a lot of them are crass and a lot of them are very like edgy, and it's like a musical style song, but the lyrics are like nothing you ever really hear in a musical. The third TV show that I'm going to recommend is actually a new one that just came out this year. The season finale will be this week, so I'm excited for that. But it's a Grease prequel on Paramount Plus called Rise of the Pink Ladies.
Yeah, Pink Ladies. Yeah.
There was a lot of chatter about it. I was arguing with a lot of people on the Paramount Plus official IG page because people were just like poo-pooing on it before it even came out, and I was just like, it's not a remake, it's a prequel. People obviously were mad about the diversity, and there's only like a little bit of it that's like kind of weird, which is like in one part of it, like one of the black dudes is like dating one of the white girls, and it's like, come on, big dog, this not even Grease. This is before Grease, so I know that this not really going down in America, but whatever. Like that doesn't happen for very long, honestly, and
very progressive.
The music, yeah, not really, but I think it's good. It's a good setup for it. It does the difficult thing that I think a lot of prequels struggle to do, which is tell their own story while still being confined to the reality that this has to lead to this thing eventually. So instead of it being about Danny and Sandy and Rizzo, it's actually about the generation before them. So like Frenchie's older sister is the main character. And basically it's about how the Pink Ladies got their start as like the first girl gang at Rydell High. Really, really interesting. I think it does a good job of telling like an old-fashioned story, but being honest about some of the stuff that happened back in the day that wasn't as wholesome as maybe our elders and ancestors would like for us to believe. But the music's good. The story has been good so far. I mean, some of it's a little cheesy, but just due to like the time frame that it's set in, the music kind of has to be a certain way. But I'm very interested to see how it ends. It's had me like grip the entire time that I've watched it. So yeah, I definitely would recommend that, especially if you like. Yeah, that's from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So yeah, it was an interesting show. It was a very interesting show. But like I said, Rise of the Pink, I would definitely, if you like Grease, I think you will enjoy Rise of the Pink Ladies.
Okay.
Because it has all the same kind of like, it has the same feeling, it has the same vibe as that original Grease, but like you're getting a brand new story that's not stepping on the toes of like the stuff that came before. And they don't go like out of their way to be like, make this happen. Like they show like, I think Rizzo's older brother is one of the T-Birds. Obviously, the main character, she's Frenchie's older sister, and you see Frenchie and Rizzo, but it's kind of like, yeah, we're just yeah. They have like a couple like scenes and lines and stuff. The girl, I would say this: the girl who plays Frenchie, I don't know what she did, but she like it's like somebody balled Didi Khan up and like Didi Khan spit, and this little girl came out because she sounds just like Didi Khan from the original Grease, which is not necessarily a easy thing to do.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like that would be an easy task.
Yeah. And apparently Frenchie is half Puerto Rican. So yeah, it's
sure, why not?
It
works for me.
it deals with a lot of like stuff like weird student teacher relationships that are inappropriate, characters who are on the LGBT spectrum and how they handled living in that time. And um, I think, if anybody's seen my wife, you already know the glasses was all I needed, and I was in. So it's just an interesting story about how like these girls who were essentially outcasts and like on the margins of school, like kind of form their own thing. Because like when you watch Grease, it kind of feels like they are popular, but the reality is they're not. They're just the main characters of the movie, so you feel that way. But like all the greasers and the gangs and all that stuff, they were not
They were
the
the
people who,
outcasts.
yeah, they were the outcasts of the school. So I definitely would suggest that for anybody who's a Grease fan for sure. And then like other just two more musicals. I know we can probably wrap up soon because I know we can talk about it all night. But Hairspray, I'll throw that one out there because I think that's a good one that
I
has
think
like the right musical vibe that people would actually like to listen to this kind of music. It's a story that's a little more like, you kind of understand what was going on in the backdrop of those times, and
I was gonna say, look, maybe
they
a
got a
little
little
more
bit of music in
universal.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
I
then a
think
movie that I
if
actually
Grease
go ahead.
fits, then no, if for anybody who like if Grease fits, then Hairspray in my head should automatically kind of fit. Um, and I think when we were talking earlier, well, when my wife and I were talking, I was like trying to make my list here. We said Grease, and then she said another one, and I forgot to write that down. But yeah, Hairspray, because I remember like the Ricky Lake Hairspray,
Hmm.
and then of course the remake with like John Travolta doing what he did. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And hey, 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 looks like we've got a guest doorbell ding dong just in time to tell us about some of his musicals. But yeah, like Hairspray is absolutely one that I think should fit and kind of gets that automatic approval. And I would put it not right next to Grease, but I would put it in the same category where Grease is. And with
Yeah.
that being a movie that I like, yeah, Hairspray fits as well. We're gonna bring on someone who hasn't been on in some time. He's been on before. He's a returning guest. We got Brad. What's going on, Brad?
What up, guys? How y'all doing?
Pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Oh, hell, I'm chilling, man.
Wonderful, wonderful. Once again, thank you for your service, Brad. Where are you right now?
Oak Harbor, Washington, about 2.5 hours north of Seattle.
All right, all right. So he's a Navy. What is the right term for you Navy guys? He's a
Sailor?
sailor. Yes, that's a little simple. Not the what I was looking for, but okay. He's a sailor. He's in the Navy, so he's all around the place. Whenever he's home, we get together, we hang out, and we have a good time. And he still owes me the recipe for the apple juice that he we had last time he was here. So I need to know the right concoction. I need that little glass bottle.
Oh,
We'll
all
talk about it
that.
later.
Ooh.
We'll talk about it later.
All right. Okay.
But have you been keeping up with the show tonight? Are you ready to
Actually,
chime in with your musicals?
actually, I have not kept up yet. I just got here, so I was just able to get on. I was playing Call of Duty, scrolling through Facebook, and saw it. I was like, "Oh shit, let me get on this thing." So,
Very cool. So tonight is we're doing our music special. Normally our music special would be on fourth Wednesday. Um,
hmm.
there was the schedules did not permit for us to get to it last week, so we carried it over because we wanted to have a discussion. We've been talking musicals. Um, I was actually surprised by the number of movies I've seen that are actually musicals, and I sat down. I came up with a whole list, and damn, it turns out I like musicals. After initially thinking like, man, I don't want to watch no musicals. I don't even like musicals. No, the list would say otherwise. The list would say I do like musicals, or rather, I don't dislike musicals. As long as it's a
All right.
good movie and there's singing involved, hey, whatever. I like music, so it only makes sense that if you can entertain me with the movie and put music in it, why wouldn't I like both? We've actually had an opportunity. We've broken down what makes a musical. We've actually had to pull some movies off the list that are actually not musicals, such as Purple Rain, not a musical. We determined tonight that Purple Rain is not a musical. So we were actually on the tail end, going through the last few. Jeff was giving me some recommendations. We were talking about modern musicals, things that have come out in more recent years, because I think one of the problems for a lot of people when you hear the term musical, they think Singing in the Rain, they think Sound of Music, they think who did we mention? Roger Hammerstein,
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Andrew Lloyd Webber. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, if you're not into that type of music, then you're probably not going to be appealed. The music is not going to appeal to you, and therefore you may not be a fan of that particular. Now, sometimes it's appropriate, it works just because maybe the setting, because you give me a Cinderella story and they're singing, I'm good with that. I know what I'm getting because it's the story, it's Cinderella. If you try to update it and modernize it like this last one, it can work. You can do it, but you could also give me that Whitney Houston version, and you could stay traditional, and it'll work because it's her voice. Brought up Spirited, which I saw on Apple TV. That was really good. Will Ferrell actually has another musical. It's like all in Spanish, no less. It's a really random ass cowboy movie, all in Spanish. I gotta look that up real quick because that was also a musical.
So I got one for you if you're into classic rock, Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages. Now, does that one? Okay, does Rock of Ages, is that performances, or does the music drive the story? That one does. Okay,
it's both.
It does count.
It's both.
Yeah, it's both.
Okay,
it is definitely both.
Is that who's in that one?
So you have Tom Cruise is in that one. Okay. You've got
Mary J.
I was picturing Mark Wahlberg for that, but
what the hell is his name? The one that plays in Get Him to the Greek, the Russian guy. I mean, I'm sorry, the English actor, the British actor, Russell Brand. He's in there. You have Alec Baldwin's in there.
Okay.
There's quite a few big names in there.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige.
Okay,
Oh yeah, Mary J. Blige is in that. Yep. There was.
See, in my head, for some reason, I was picturing. Okay, because he's legend. I don't know why.
I think you're thinking about School of Rock.
Yeah, he's thinking about School of Rock with Jack Black.
I was about to say that's not Mark Wahlberg, but yeah, Jack Black. Now School of Rock. That's hilarious. I love that movie, but that's a comedy. It's just a comedy with music. I know where that one falls. But no, is Jennifer Aniston in one of these? You know what? There's a movie Jennifer Aniston and I gotta look through her damn. Let's see. Let me go to her IMDb real quick and see if I can find it, because I feel like she's the person that the male
rock star.
See, I'm not crazy. Who was in that one? Who was in that one?
Mark Wahlberg, Jennifer Aniston.
See, I didn't make it.
There it is.
I didn't make it up. I was like, is that the one with Mark Wahlberg? You were like, Tom.
Isn't that newer? Isn't that just come out last year or two?
No, that's
2001.
That's
definitely
an older one. And that's why when you said that, I was like, maybe it's that one, because it's been a minute. Okay.
No, Rock of Ages only came out in, I think it was like 2018, 2016. I'm pulling numbers off the top of my head right now.
No problem. I mean, like, one day we'll have a whole producer who will take care of all
2012. Wow. Further back than I thought.
Yeah, see, and just looking at this, like, this character from Rockstar looks like he would grow up to be Tom Cruise's character from Rock of Ages. They basically play the same person. Okay, cool. And that's another one of those where it's like, it looks like they would probably be a lot of performances, and that's where it comes in.
Mhm.
So that's why I was curious about Rock of Ages because I haven't seen that one. So you know what? We're talking about musicals. Screw it. I'll throw it on the list. Rock of Ages. It's got Tom Cruise. It can't be that bad, right?
So Tom Cruise actually isn't in there that often. He's not. He's not like a main character in there even.
Oh, but he still got top billing because it's Tom Cruise. I know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be no different than
Yep.
Jada Pinkett in Scream. She was in that
Oh
movie
God.
for all of 5 minutes, but I cannot tell you how packed that theater was. We thought Jada Pinkett was gonna be in Scream. I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, really? That's it? Her and Omar Epps. I thought we had a movie, man. That'll be a whole other. You know, there's another movie coming up that we may have to get around to talking about. Okay, so some other ones that we mentioned. Have you seen Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Absolutely.
Okay, that was one that was on the list.
Little Shop of Horrors.
On the list, good call. That was on my list. We
Mhm.
have Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody pointed out Labyrinth.
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 With David Bowie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were able to decide and distinguish that, you know, it had to be something where it wasn't just a movie with music or a movie about music. It had to be a movie where the music drives the narrative and you actually have to have characters singing. Because there are a lot of good examples of movies where the music is perfectly fitting, but because no one's singing, it doesn't really, even though it does help to drive the narrative, because no one's singing it, it doesn't really qualify. I think the example we gave was Toy Story 2, where there's the whole song from Jessie, like when Jessie's kind of going, like she tells her backstory and then they do the little fade away. The music is playing and the music is kind of leading up to, you know, like just ripping at your heartstrings and making you cry and everything. But it's not Jessie singing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like nobody, you know, comes in to sing backup for or anything like that. Also, something like Purple Rain, where even though the music is in fact driving the story, it is not from the perspective of like internalized thoughts being sung. It's not someone singing to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It is performances where he's on stage, the crowd is listening, and we're just, you know, we get to be a fly on the wall and see this as it unfolds. So
Right.
we've had a pretty good time kind of breaking down, talking about what's good and what's bad with musicals. Would you consider yourself a fan of musicals yourself?
I mean, if it's got good music in it, I'm not going to turn it down. But yeah, I mean, I'd watch musicals. I mean, I'd probably watch musicals even if it didn't have a good storyline, just because as long as the singing's good in it and the songs match up with the plot fairly well, I'd probably watch it. Like what was the one with all the girls that are singing all the time?
Take your pick.
Oh Lord have mercy.
All the
I was gonna say you might have to be more specific. Have to narrow that down.
Let's see.
Oh dear Lord.
Describe any of the girls. Like, give me an actor. Give me an
actress.
actress.
It's where they were all singing a cappella the majority of the damn time when they kept going to concerts. And there you go. Like those, I still watch. I watch those. Not really considered a musical, but
I was about to
say, had good music in.
Ooh, you know what? Now that's an interesting one because that may actually qualify.
To me, it felt like it was more performance than anything else, but I could agree that it could possibly qualify only because it did have that one or two times where they were singing in the.
They were kind of. I did read something as I was kind of doing a research on what musicals are. There was something that said a musical has to contain, I think it was like 6 songs or more to categorize itself as a musical, which I thought was kind of like, that's interesting. And interesting side note, La La Land just made the mark with 8 songs in the movie. So despite all of the music involved, there was only 8 songs in the movie. And so it just makes the cut, according to one of the researchers I did. It was something that was published and standardized and whatnot. So it wasn't just like one person saying they believe. And I thought that was an interesting thing. And then you have movies like, as we talked about, Les Miserables. There are like 42 songs because literally every conversation in the movie is singing. So the entire movie, the entire dialogue is song, which I thought that was kind of interesting. That would be unique for that to be that way. I was like, but I still was not interested in seeing it initially. So I don't know that that's going to like drive me to go see it. And we discussed it. It was like, you know what? I probably wouldn't just up and watch a movie about the French Revolution. If there wasn't Hugh Jackman singing and Russell Crowe singing, it would not have been something. And honestly, like they're not draws for me to go and see it anyway because they're singing.
What about Big Top? No, Big Top wasn't the name of it. It had Hugh Jackman in it, where he was the Barnum and the Bailey circus.
Yeah. We actually, you know what? And we just talked about that because that is actually one of the movies that my daughter enjoys so much. That is like without a doubt one of her. I would say it's one of her favorite movies.
Is it called The Big Show?
Oh no, Greatest Showman.
Greatest
Showman. Yeah. But my daughter's watched that movie so many times, and as a result of her having watched it so much, I've seen it a number of times. And that is a fantastic movie. I mean, the singing, and that's one of those movies where it is the singing that really makes that movie enjoyable because those songs are so powerful and they're timed just right, and that performance, like they're it's almost as if those people in the movie actually had to suffer through those particular atrocities or prejudices or whatever it came, because there's like a lot of really powerful songs that take place. And then of course you have other movies that see, and it's funny because like there's a lot of movies that have good music in them, even if there's some performances, but because they are in fact performances. And like I just thought about it, like Austin Powers, Mike Myers loves music, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Shrek has great songs that help advance the story, but nobody's singing, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like doesn't quite work there. Now in Austin Powers, you know, Daddy Wasn't There, technically it's you know, it's the idea of what's going on, it's the, you know, the feelings he's having at the moment, the stuff he's dealing with, but it's not driving the story forward. It's just a performance by Ming T, his band in the movie. And even going with like, you know, Goldmember, it's the same thing. You got Beyonce performing. But there again, she's welcoming everybody to, was it Studio 69? Those movies are funny. I laugh at them.
So here's one that I don't know if you have on your list: Moulin Rouge.
Do not have Moulin Rouge on the list. I have Chicago on the list, but do not have Moulin Rouge.
Chicago's a good one too.
And you know what? I like Moulin Rouge simply. I actually watched that because it had. This is gonna sound so funny. I watched it because Obi-Wan Kenobi was in it. I was like, "What's this? I haven't seen this."
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, "Yeah, let me check this
Ewan
out."
McGregor.
Right. I was like, "What's this? Let me see this." And then I saw like John Leguizamo. He's hilarious. So I was like, "Okay, we're 2 for 2. What else we got?" And it was actually really entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't. I mean, it was a great cast of actors in that and singers as well.
See, but as far as the overall story and everything, that was kind of like, eh. It was a weaker movie. The music was good, but I feel like the movie itself was a little weak, and that's where it failed. That's why it did make the list where Chicago did make the list for me. Because I felt like Chicago just had better story, and I like the songs a little bit more. But then I'm not like a huge fan of Nicole Kidman. I don't. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good ones, and apparently, like they've now moved it over because I don't think were there musical TV shows before. Now that
It was it there weren't like shows where it was like every week you are guaranteed to get multiple musical numbers. It was more like what Buffy did, where it was like we have a musical episode,
right,
and
Psych the musical,
or even if it's like such and such's bus crashed in front of my school, and like they came in, and now our main character sings with the band, or or Tatiana Ali like is overheard singing and she sings karaoke, and then people want to sign her to a record deal on Fresh Prince or something like that, but never really like how some of the shows.
RESPECT. Right, that's a funny episode. Will and Carlton in the back fighting. Yeah, I think that's probably what comes to mind. But the fact that you were able to give me like full series where it is a musical TV show, like that to me is interesting. And like I said, I would watch because there are
Glee.
shows like
Glee.
Yeah.
That was probably the one where it was like, because then there's Glee. There's also like, so like Empire is like one of those for me that's like on the fence, because most of the performances, they kind of were plot driven, but it was very much like these are people who are artists on a music label and they're performing the songs that they're going to do for the music label. And then also you have the Get Down, which it's kind of like, I don't know if you watched that one on Netflix, but it was this kind of like fake story about the origins of hip hop and this crew. And so some of it was like performative, and then some of it was like we're singing this musical like within the context of like the real world, but it was just hard to do. And then there's one I didn't watch, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I never watched that one, but that one was definitely a musical show because she had like some sort of brain injury, and so she was just seeing everything as like musicals. It was like the episode of Scrubs where I think the lady was having the aneurysm and she was seeing and hearing everything as like a musical. It was like that, but a whole show. So musical shows I think are very, very difficult to do, because you're talking about if you got 20 episodes of a season, I got to write between 20 and 40 songs,
or I have to figure out how to write this story in such a way that these songs advance my story.
Yeah,
because what comes to mind when we talked about Pitch Perfect, that spinoff, and again, like I don't know how my family tricks me into this shit, but Bumper in Berlin, we watched Bumper in Berlin, and it was like, again, it is performance, but there were times where the music that was being sung was driving the narrative in that moment specifically. And it's like anytime a character like feels sad or gets down, they sing. What they're singing about, or the song they chose, is a reflection of what they're dealing with, what they're going through, or it's that exact moment. Because I just like the one that comes to mind is like, I don't remember the characters, Flula Borg's character and the guy Bumper are like, they're like hiding in a giant pipe or some shit randomly, and he's like, "That's it. I should just give up. I should quit." and I'm done with this. This is stupid. Da da da. He's like, oh, that sounds like quitting talk to me. You know what you need? You just need to get back. You just need to find your groove. And he starts like doing some little like, just some little ham boning right there on the pipe and beating on the chest. He's like, don't you do it, man. Don't you do it. And then he just like breaks out into song. And it's like, I'm halfway through this movie, this show, because it was like a series. And we watched the whole thing in a day. I was like, did y'all really just make me binge watch this show? But I was getting into it because we're going to have a riff off.
You like, did y'all make me binge watch it? Meanwhile, you're like, hurry up, come back from the bathroom.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So when we get around to seeing like Miss Marvel, not Miss Marvel, but we get around to She-Hulk, I'm like, hey, I know her. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like these are people that I would not have known otherwise and stuff I wouldn't have seen otherwise. So my wife constantly tricks me into watching musicals. And every time I like it, but I refuse to just say that I like musicals. But
so let me ask a question.
what's up?
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Absolutely a musical.
Okay.
Absolutely musical, and a damn good one too. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. You know what? That's got to go. We're definitely putting it above this one. We'll put it under Grease, but over Rocky Horror Picture Show.
So I was raised on Rocky Horror and Little Shop and Grease. So I think those three definitely in the past 30, 40 years are probably top three for me.
Well, see, I think if I had to go with if I had to do a top three, for me, it's going to be Wiz. It's going to be top three.
Oh, the Wiz. Oh my God, I forgot about the Wiz.
The Wiz is going to be top three. Willy
Do
Wonka
you remember
Chocolate Factory?
Do you remember Michael Jackson's Moonwalker?
I do.
Yes.
That was a musical.
Yeah.
To an extent. Well, I don't know.
Because see, all of that was not performance.
See, those were just music videos.
I was about to say that was just like one long ass music video.
It was a long ass music video, but it had multiple songs in it.
It did.
Each one had to deal with the plot and the time of where it was done.
Yeah.
So the real question is that.
But you know what?
Was it really performances?
I see the one that comes to mind is like, I'm thinking Speed Demon, because we hear the music, but he doesn't actually sing the song. So, like, when you take that context, it's like, okay, so we take Speed Demon out. We have Batter. It's the kids, not Michael.
Mm-hmm. You have Smooth Criminal.
I think Smooth, like, he definitely
but I don't,
Smooth Criminal. But even that is still, well, see, that one's not performance.
I don't know if he sang it or if he just did the music video portion of it.
He does sing in that one.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
So this the thing that I would have an issue with is like Moonwalker. I love that movie. Me and my cousin used to watch the VHS. We got it from Pizza Hut. We used to watch it every Saturday.
Ran it out.
And over. My auntie was just like, y'all cannot watch Moonwalker no more. Like today, like she was like, it was like a cutoff. The issue is like it has like somewhat of a plot throughout, but really it's like all that stuff is just like trying to connect one music video to the next music video, right? Yeah. Like the Smooth Criminal music video, the long version for me, that's my favorite Michael Jackson video. I think of all time. I love it with all my heart. The kids dancing in the alley, that's me and my cousin watching. It's literally like me and my cousin are like the kids in the alley who was watching him dance inside the club. But then it's like, what is the overall story? Like, how does Smooth Criminal like advance whatever robot plot? Yeah, like so it really was kind of like this really auteur-ish undertaking. But
well, I mean, you have to remember at that point in time, you had movies like Highlander 2 that were out, and they were all kind of off the wall, pretty regular.
Facts.
But I mean, I like the fact they had Joe Pesci in that damn movie. That shit was the best part, man. Watching the music videos just unfold to tell a story that really didn't make sense, but have Joe Pesci as the villain at the end. That was throughout the whole thing. I loved it.
I think if the story had been, I can't even say grounded a little bit more, but if there had been a very specific plot as opposed to just a recording of events that took place. Because when Michael is recording the music, because we start off with him recording the music video for Bad. The kids, they do the batter. That was great. And then he walks through the smoke. He's full Michael Jackson now. The claymation people start chasing him. He runs off. He's like running through the Warner Brothers movie lot or whatever, the Sony movie lot or whatever. When he gets through the movie lot, he like hides in the rabbit costume, gets on the motorcycle, rides off. We got the Speed Demon video that takes place. When that ends, the rabbit is doing its own thing. He goes from there. I don't even remember like that whole middle portion. And then like the next thing we know, he's like, got to meet these kids. Okay. It's Michael Jackson, so we're not thinking anything of it. Not the way I meant that, but that was not what I meant.
At the time.
Sorry, man.
But it's like, okay, Michael Jackson, he's got to go meet these kids, and they're going to meet him apparently at this bar. Like, you know what? Now that I think about it, that's just not a good look in general. But yeah, meet me outside the back of the bar. Like, come on, Mike, don't do that. But so he's gonna meet these kids, and on his way to like meet the kids, he like has to break up a fight that's about to take place in the bar. Somehow his outfit changes. He opens the door and like whoosh. Now he's got on like the freshest white suit ever. You know what I'm saying? He stands there. Everybody stops, and it's like, what is this? A 1950s juke joint. They got like the girl got the little beads on and everything. Quarter from across the room, we get the whole Smooth Criminal video, which again, probably one of the best videos ever. At the end of the Smooth Criminal video, as the kids, like once they get down from looking through the window, the lights get weird. The police come around. They're all going to shoot. He escapes, but they're chasing him. And when they do the little chase scene, that is actually, I had that poster. I do remember that. I had that poster as a kid where Mike is like running, and it's like a still shot of him running in the suit and the dogs that are chasing him when he does like that weird look back. It was a dope poster. I remember that. But when he finally gets cornered, he turns into a robot car and then a jet, and he flies. And I'm like, the hell did I just watch? What kind of fever dream peyote in the desert shit is this? And that's why that's probably the only reason it can't be a musical, is because it's not really a movie. Like, is there a beginning, middle, end? Is there a hero's journey? It's entertainment, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? Like you could watch a live concert and get the same thing. You know what I'm saying? If you watched a Kanye performance where he does way too much, you know what I'm saying? You would get the same results, just in terms of the narrative that's there. Even something like Tyler the Creator. You know what I'm saying? If you take his album, Call Me When You Get Lost, and you go from beginning to end, or you know what? I would say probably the best example of that would be Childish Gambino had like a 4-album run that was basically a big story that was being told about aliens taking over.
Well, I mean, R. Kelly had the closet scene, had the closet run.
Yeah, that was a mini movie. I remember like at one point.
I remember sitting there waiting for the next video to come out so I could watch the next video.
No, listen, I remember one point, like right when the internet was a thing, and it was like trying to get all episodes downloaded, and it used to be a thing. People would have like, I think that was like the early days of YouTube. You could get like episodes 1 through 9 in one thing. They would have them all put together. I wonder if you could find that. You know what? I don't even want to. Let me turn on my private. Let me turn on all my browser private settings and stuff before I search this. I need my FBI agent.
Speaking of criminal,
what you got?
Just I was gonna say, speaking of Smooth Criminal, that music video is actually inspired by a musical called The Bandwagon, starring Fred Astaire. I dropped a link in the private chat, but a lot of the scenes that you see in Smooth Criminal, down to the suit Michael's wearing, is basically the same suit Fred Astaire is wearing. A lot of the like that Michael Jackson walk where he's like this shit straight out of that movie. Like that's Fred Astaire is like walking in the club trying like not to get noticed by all the gangsters, and Michael just took it and ran with it. So again, that was I think that was covered in the Bad documentary. But just throwing out that little tidbit of history.
Oh yeah, it like all like the Fred Astaire and the Rat Pack group and all of them, man. The way they played back into the gangster gaze, that was probably the classic musical era.
Definitely, and I think and while a lot of those are good, not all of them have aged well, and I think sometimes that's where the disconnect comes in. When people say musical, they automatically go to that era or that scenery, or
Well, like whenever I think of musical, I automatically go to Disney.
Yeah. We didn't even try to go through the entire list of Disney musicals, but just many. Most of them, in my opinion,
all of 90% of them.
Okay, the little shuffle step there. I see it. Bar fight. Okay. Oh, see that? Okay, I remember that one. I was like, yeah, that didn't take place yet, but that was You Rock My World.
Yeah, so like that's like, I mean, Michael Jackson was like very, very good friends with Fred Astaire. I want to say they were like next door neighbors or something. And like there's video of Fred Astaire talking about how like Michael Jackson would just come to his house and they would just dance until they couldn't dance anymore. And it's one of those things where it's like Mike was an original for sure, but he definitely was somebody who understood and appreciated the classics and paid homage whenever he could to a lot of like really, really great films. And I think those are the types of things where when people are like, I don't like musicals, it's like, but you like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson likes musicals, and you like Michael Jackson music videos. And a lot of Michael Jackson music videos and his styling and all that stuff comes from, that era. Michael Jackson, people get it twisted. Like Michael Jackson was not like young, like he was an industry vet by the time he became the solo star that we all like knew him to be. So he's coming from like this very like old school, and he was on Motown, so he's coming from this very like old school mindset of how he views classic movies, classic cinema, classic musicals. Like these are all the people who are his inspiration and inspired him to do his thing the way that he did it. And he always like, I think, paid homage to that through like choices, whether it's dancing, clothes, everything. So
I remember that scene from Smooth. So yeah, The Bandwagon, see, Moonwalker, You Rock My World, Dangerous World Tour. There was some stuff here where there's this little spin up. Boom. I mean, it's like, and the funny thing is I would probably, my wife would probably have a better chance to get me to watch some of this stuff because of the dancing over the singing
Yes,
a lot of times.
same.
And if it had
But
more
I think you know
dancing,
there are. I think there are, and I think that's another thing that I wanted to say that I forgot. There are dancing musicals, and then there's singing musicals. And so, if you like dancing, I like dancing more than singing. Probably just like watching it in a movie. So finding movies with like really good choreography. That's part of the reason why I like Grease so much because yeah, it's like got great songs and great singing, but the choreography, the set pieces, and all that stuff really is what hooked me on that movie to begin with. It made it, it's like I'm a kid watching this movie about high school. I don't know, everybody's like 45 years old, but I'm like, man, like you guys are making high school look and seem like it's gonna be a very like fun place to be. Granted, obviously we all know high school is like nothing like Greece, but when I'm
right?
8 and watching this movie, that's
I
what I'm
can't wait
latching
to go
on
to
to.
high school.
Right.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure there were some kids who probably, even to our point earlier, saw High School Musical and could not wait to get to high school to be on the basketball team because they could dance and thought that that was how it went down.
I can do both.
Right, you know what I'm saying? They didn't realize that like if you was in the band, you couldn't play sports because you had to perform at the game. Like you could play some sports, but not all sports, and it was a challenge. And if you decided to stick with band and get good at it, you could do marching band and this and that. And it was got interesting, man. Goes different directions. But then, of course, if you were lucky, maybe your school had something like um, oh damn, we just said it. The School of Rock, and you had a music teacher like Jack Black, who, even though wasn't even really teaching music class, you know what I'm saying? Wasn't really teaching music class, just decided to make the class about music. Okay. Um, interesting concept there. But yeah, I would definitely be more inclined to watch modern dance. I do have to specify that, but
Yeah, for
I would be
sure.
more I would be more inclined to watch modern dance in musicals, and that would definitely be more appeal. Like she was able to convince me. Well, I won't say convince, but like when I saw Jingle Jangle, it was because of the
Oh
big
yeah,
dance numbers, not
yeah,
because of the singing. Even though there's like all this singing in it, it was the big dance numbers that got my attention, and the cast, and the acting, and the story, and it was a damn good movie. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I'm
yeah.
fortunate if it's a great movie and it happens that they sing. That's what I look for. Great movies where it happens that they sing. You're not gonna sell me by saying like, "Hey, here's a movie where they sing," and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's
If
not
it's a
that's
movie
not
where they sing, they better be singing.
right.
That's my thing. If it's a movie
I
where they dance, they better be dancing. I don't
yeah.
want to see shuffle ball change, tappa tappa tappa. I need real dancing. That's why I don't mess with La La Land. It's like
Here's a couple steps. I'm gonna hop up on this bench. I'm gonna jump down and ha ha, jazz hands.
got these crouching tiger, hidden dragon strings going on and all this. I'm like, and the thing about it, the bones of that movie are very, very, very strong. But it was just miscast because they were not strong enough singers or dancers to carry that movie. And if you're not strong enough to carry the movie, and like they had chemistry, but it's like we already saw that in Crazy Stupid Love. Like just do another rom com together. We don't like the singing. No, no.
Just trying to get that crossover money. And you know what? It's one of
You
those
know,
things like
I grew up going to a black church. If you can't sing, if that's not your ministry, so you can join the usher, board.
Usher board.
You
Usher
can.
board.
We need people helping cook in the fellowship hall. We
You know what
got
I'm
all
saying?
kinds of ways you can help serve. You can sing in the ensemble, you can sing in the choir,
Right.
but if you walk down and get that microphone for a solo, you better deliver.
Pipes.
Only time
There's
you
a lot
get
of
to like get
a lot
away.
of take your time going on with
Right. As I
while
said, the
on
only time, and I do not encourage anybody to do this, but the only time you get away with not being able to sing and running to go grab that microphone is at a funeral. And that's only because people are already too sad to come whoop your ass. But they're
Facts.
not going to forget that. They're not going to forget that
Mhm.
because you had them suffering longer as a result. Do one verse and wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? One verse, wrap it up. If your mic cut off, don't say, you know, somebody say keep go. No. All right, man. I think we covered musicals very, very well, and I like the things that have been added to my list. I look forward to checking some of these out, and I will make my. You know what? Now it's funny because I'm going to make my wife sit and watch some of these. So ha ha ha. I don't know if she's seen them, and if she has, great. She'll probably enjoy that I'm sitting down to watch them. If not, it'll be my turn to make her watch a musical. Hello, Dolly, Funny Girl, Guys and Dolls, Enchanted, and then after we finish up, and it's funny because I really feel like we've just been kind of delaying Miss Davis because you know what I'm saying. Like if we finish it, then we'll be finished with it. So it's like we just hold it off and keep talking. You want to watch it tonight? Let's wait till tomorrow. Like we ain't got shit to do today or tomorrow, but we'll wait. Okay. Um, but we
I'll
are
say
still
this: I was satisfied by the ending.
cool. Cool. I
That save it
that
for our AI will end us all episode.
there we go. That'll be a special. That feels like that definitely feels like a week 3 episode. Oh, speaking of which, we're coming up on a week 1, so we have to hammer down. Why did I watch that over the next few days? We'll get to that next. But that has been our show tonight. Got some great stuff to clip out of this. We had some great discussion. Learned some stuff. I told you, man, you had the glasses on. I knew I was going to music school. I knew it. I knew it. When I pulled it up, I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn some shit tonight. But it's always fantastic. Brad, hey man, appreciate you hopping in. Thanks for joining us. And you know what? I have to put Rock of Ages. I put Rock of Ages on the list here. I've got it. It is right there, and I will be checking that one out too because I've not seen that one. Like I said, I thought it was the other one with Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston, but that was Rockstar. So I will be checking out.
And now I'm going to go check out Rockstar.
See, so it's that's how it works. Let's see. We mentioned all of those. Got all of those touched on. Yeah, so we're good. Oh, we did disqualify Dirty Dancing, even though Patrick Swayze does sing one song. It doesn't. It clearly doesn't count as a musical. But it was funny because it was one of those things where it's like Dirty Dancing falls into the category of movies that it has such an iconic song associated to it. Some people that music plays in their head automatically. And so sometimes people will associate musicals that way, but we dispelled that early on to say that that's a dancing movie. But you know, I had the time of my life, or time of my life is one of like you don't hear that song and not think of Dirty Dancing. So, and but see, then it's like we don't need another hero. Sniff tear. Okay. This could go left real quick if we start talking about movies and try to qualify and disqualify movies again. We'll go through everybody who watched. I want to thank everybody for being a part. Be sure to click the QR code there so you can find our link tree, find all of our socials and everywhere we are. Join our groups and make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. For Jeff, Brad, and myself, Sam, we are out of here.